You know, we have now a debt in the United States that has crossed $18 trillion. Part of why we have a debt is, you know, if you were going to travel, say you're an official, and you went one night in Australia, Canberra, how many rooms do you think you would need for your entourage?
I can't even begin to guess.
We have an imperial president who is living greater than the Raja of all those places in India that you can think of, the potentates of the world. He lives larger than any of them.
How many rooms?
Could you believe 4,000 rooms?
What?
4,000 rooms. 4,000 for the imperial, His Majesty, Our Excellency, the Emperor of all Americas.
You know, considering the security necessary, it's a wonder anybody even wants anyone to show up.
Security, massive. I mean, good grief. This is over the top, like you cannot believe. They just don't have any concept of saving money any longer. I mean, that is an example of at the top, like budgets don't matter, expenses don't matter, and for sure the taxpayers don't matter. And by the way, we've just got a new senator coming in from Louisiana, and this is the largest turnover in a off-year election in history, from what I understand, because of the imperial presidency. 4,000 hotel rooms for one night's stay. Well, a new threat to America is taking place around the world, and this time it comes from a shocking report from the United States Congress, with graphic details about the torture used on suspects after 9/11.
Now, some officials worry that the report could lead to protests and violence and unleash still more brutal Islamic terrorism. Dale Hurd brings us the story.
U.S. embassies around the world are bracing for the fallout from the release of a top-secret report on the use of torture by the CIA.
This will, in fact, incite violence, and it's likely to cost someone their life.
According to officials who have read it, the document includes disturbing new details about the CIA's use of sleep deprivation, confinement in small spaces, and the simulated drowning process known as waterboarding. Senator Dianne Feinstein called the torture chilling, brutal, and un-American.
We tortured some folks. We did some things that were contrary to our values.
President Obama has since banned the practices, and the Bush administration has come under heavy criticism for the post-9/11 interrogation techniques. But former NSA and CIA Director Michael Hayden told CBS Face the Nation waterboarding was no longer being done when he led the agency.
While I was director and under President Bush's guidance, we took waterboarding off the table. The popular story is that President Obama had done that. Actually, it was long gone before he became president, and the last person waterboarded, of a total of 3, was in March of 2003.
The fear is that the report will not only put U.S. overseas interest in danger and incite violence, but will be a powerful new recruiting tool for Muslim terrorists like ISIS. But terrorists have already made Americans their top targets, including the death over the weekend of American Luke Summers and a South African, killed by their captors in a failed U.S. rescue attempt in Yemen. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Well, I tell you what, you may be shocked at some of that, but the truth is we didn't have another incident after 9/11, and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was caught. He was the mastermind, and they were rather rough with him, but they learned invaluable information. So I know it seems brutal, but that's the way it was. Something else to me is taken place that is just shocking. It's in the news that there were 30,000 criminals released into the population among the immigrants. 30,000 immigrant criminals released into the United States population by the imperial presidency. Well, in other news, just a year after Typhoon Haiyan devastated the Philippines, there's another powerful storm slammed into the country. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau. Here's John.
Pat, Typhoon Hagapit has been downgraded to a tropical storm, but not before unleashing destructive winds that killed at least 21 people. Many of them drowned in the eastern Samar province, where the storm made landfall. Nearly 1 million people fled to shelters as it moved towards the capital of Manila.
Our house is near the sea and our roof will surely be blown away. We are scared. That is why we evacuated here.
Our foremost concern is their safety in using this school. Being the school head, I have to take care of their...
Hagaput is moving slowly, and its heavy rains could trigger landslides and flash flooding. Republicans increased their majority in the Senate over the weekend when Bill Cassidy defeated incumbent Senator Mary Landrieu in the runoff race in Louisiana. Cassidy said voters nationwide sent a message in last month's elections that they didn't like the direction the country is going, and Louisiana voters agreed.
We echo that we want our country to go in a conservative direction. Where the patient has the power, not a bureaucrat. Where we have no shame in using America's natural resources to create better jobs for working families. And where we, the people, have the power and not the federal government.
And Pat, President Obama has now suffered more midterm losses than any other two-term president.
Yes, and he doesn't seem to recognize the fact. He said, well, after all, 1/3 of the people voted, but 2/3 didn't, and I represent the 2/3. No, you don't. I don't think you represent many of anybody these days, but he is desperately trying to stay relevant, and he's just loading the country with a plethora of these regulations. They just keep pouring down from Washington, anything possible to destroy the country. And he's even rumoring, and they haven't denied it, that he's thinking about sanctions against Israel. Like, if you could imagine anything more awful than for us to sanction the greatest friend we've got in the Middle East. But that's what that administration has been doing up there. And they say now in the South, from North Carolina South, that there isn't one single Democrat senator, or I think maybe Bill Nelson in Florida, but I don't know whether his term is out or not. He's a Democrat. But besides him, there's not one Democrat governor. And it's a landslide. This last election was a landslide, and now the Republicans will have about a huge majority in the House and a significant majority in the United States Senate. So the president hadn't exactly won any popularity contests as far as the American people are concerned. John?
Pat, the Obama administration has been lax in enforcing deportation of illegal immigrants, according to information from the government. Immigration officials released nearly 31,000 foreign criminals into the United States, and the administration only repatriated less than 1% of the 12 million illegals in the U.S. in the year leading up to this October, according to a federal document reported by the Daily Caller. Some critics, like Alabama Republican Senator Jeff Sessions, say President Obama has destroyed immigration enforcement. Well, in health news, obesity can cause heart damage without ever showing any warning signs. Health Day reports that a recent study from Johns Hopkins found that severely obese people were more than twice as likely to develop heart failure as people with normal weight. The reason? Being obese increases the risk of damage to the heart muscle and risk for heart failure, even though there weren't any symptoms of problems. A director at Johns Hopkins says it's a wake-up call that obesity could lead to a growing rate of heart failure. And Pat, that's more incentive for people to keep a healthy diet and lose weight.
John, the people pigging out on Big Macs do not read the Johns Hopkins survey. And they're not going to be influenced even if they did read it. That's the problem. But there's something else. You know, if you knock down 3 or 4 of these sugared drinks a day, you're going to wind up getting fat. And the worse than the sugar that's in them is high fructose corn syrup, which from all indications that I know there's controversy, so I put that out there, but as far as I can tell, it has a molecular makeup that is different from regular sugar. And the effects on the body are astounding. We have a nation of fat people. I mentioned once before in this program, I was at Opryland in Tennessee, in Nashville, and they have a restaurant that's sort of like a sunken garden, and there's a crosswalk or an arch that goes across above it. So you're sitting in the restaurant, you're looking up. And I was looking up, and you cannot believe the guts and the hips and the thighs that were
That's probably not a pleasant meal.
Oh no, it didn't enhance my lunch at all. But here they were parading, and this was Middle America. I mean, just the amount of people that are overweight is just appalling.
I do think people are becoming more savvy, though, about the information. I think you're right that there is just way too much overweight going on in the country.
It's appalling. But the trouble is, it isn't just overweight. And what this study shows is that this is going to affect your organs in ways that don't even show up in tests. It's just, you know, and this whole thing of inflammation. Anyhow, I won't get into this in the health program today. But
Congress is taking another step this week to preserve a war memorial cross at Mount Soledad in California. The Senate is expected to approve a bill that could save the 43-foot cross overlooking the city of San Diego. The House already passed the measure. It authorizes the Defense Department to transfer the federal land where the cross now sits to a private veterans memorial group. Federal courts have ruled that the cross is an unconstitutional government endorsement of religion. Well, CBN is using the airwaves to reach people with the Word of God in Nepal. CBN's show Happy World airs on one of the country's top TV channels. The show features educational segments and Bible teaching, and it receives an average of 120 letters from around the country each month in response to the program. This November, the show also received 150 emails and Facebook messages. Children are invited to join the Jesus and Me Club and receive more information about the Bible. Well, you can learn more about what CBN is doing around the world by logging on to cbn.com/international.